My question is like, so you're obviously like a professional political pundit. You've had years of training, you know, you have all this money worth of resources behind you. You have a PR team, you got security here. So like, why do you, as like a professional pundit, think it's fair to come to college campuses and debate like college freshmen? Like, doesn't that seem like kind of unfair to you?
Well, hold on. I mean, let's stop talking down to college kids. I'm talking to voters, right? This audience will determine the future of America. As you could see with my first dialogue, I'm not here to be adversarial. We disagreed. I let him have his points in. And as far as the fair standpoint, I have no notes. You can go bring a professor. Why don't you go bring a professor and bring him up to the mic?
Okay.
Why don't you go find 5 professors that have PhDs? I didn't go to college. That's a fair fight, right? By the way, you guys are in college. I graduated high school.
Okay. I mean, like, you come here, you say, this is not adversarial, but, I mean, on the text message you sent out, it says, come to the debate. You have this sign that says, prove me wrong. It seems like you like, want this, like, debate to happen so you can put it on YouTube and upload a clip of you dunking on the libs or whatever, dude. It seems like a grift is what it seems like to me.
Okay, but hold on a second. Don't you agree that more speech, not less speech, is better for a free society?
Sure, I agree with that, yeah. But I would agree that, like, on this basis, it just seems like it's, like, disparate levels of, like, resources. You know what I mean? It doesn't seem, to me, it seems, like, kind of disingenuous in you coming here, because it seems like you don't really, like, want to have this debate. You just want to, like, dunk on people, bro.
Well, let me say, I mean, so you're trying to play into my intentions, though, so why am I here? I'm here to support our Turning Point chapter. I'm here to help Tim Sheehy to defeat John Tester, as I said, which there's a lot of support for that. And we're going to have dialogue and disagreement. And yes, I've been doing this for quite a while, but you could also go phone a friend. Go bring 10 libs. You can all have your phones, and you could debate me, and I'll have no notes, and we'll see who wins. In fact, I just debated 25 college kids by myself, and actually went pretty well. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what your point is here. This is a free speech event. You could bring whoever you want. And also, you don't have to come up to the mic.
I was just asking you, dude. Like.
Yeah, and that's it. So if there's a point of disagreement, we can do that. But last thing I'll say is this, don't think so low of college kids. You might, I don't. This audience will determine the future of Western civilization. And this audience might be drafted into a world war. This audience is being used as pawns by people like John Tester and Kamala Harris to put their radical agenda. It's time that we start talking to the next generation, not talking down to the next generation. And that's what we're doing.
I recently moved from Canada, and I can say one thing. America is great. Canada is screwed up. And I'm wondering, because obviously if Kamala's elected, I think we're going to be Canada 2.0.
Yeah, that's right.
What would you do if you were Prime Minister of Canada right now?
I would deport Justin Trudeau the first day in office. That guy sucks. Canada's a real problem, man. I mean, because I would basically allow Alberta to become its own country.
I lived in Alberta too, so yeah.
Edmonton or
Calgary.
Yeah, the two best parts of Canada are Edmonton and Calgary. Beautiful country too. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Canada's a really screwed up country, and it's a self-hating country, as you well know, that prides itself on being polite. And this is a great lesson for those of us in the West, that your favorable characteristics of being polite, nice, and welcoming can also be your downfall. And you know that in Canada, right?
Yeah.
Super polite, okay, we're just gonna allow a bunch of foreigners to overrun our country. Super polite, we're not gonna allow anyone, we're not gonna have free speech. Canada's got a big problem. It does not have this, the Constitution, so you do not have robust free speech protections. You do not have Second Amendment protections. So the government is able to do whatever they want. I wouldn't want to be Prime Minister of Canada. I wouldn't last very long. But between Ottawa, Toronto, and Vancouver, you have some of the most liberal cities on the planet, as you well know. Canada, I think, is bringing in like half of its population in the next decade in immigrants. It's just not sustainable.
I know.
And it's too bad. It was a once great country. Canada has fallen.
I know. I'm thankful that I moved here, though.
Do you have a U.S. citizen?
Yes.
Oh, good for you.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Welcome.
I was born in America, but then I moved to from California.
You won the lottery.
I know.
God bless, man.
Right,
thank you.
Glad
you're
so
here. Thank you.
I went back to school later on in life. Here's my issue. My second semester, I'm carrying an A average, and my teacher writes me an email and asks me what my pronouns were. I'm first year Gen X. I don't have a pronoun. Let me tell you what I do have. I have a noun, and it's my name. And that's the only English language I can actually say I have. But I was cool. and I was really kind. Excuse my language, but y'all are adults here, right? Okay, good. So, excuse my language, but you know what? I am pissed off because when I said to her, I'm sorry, I don't claim a pronoun, I got failed. I got failed in 3 of her courses. And my grade point average went from a 4.0 down to a 2.5 because I didn't carry a pronoun. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I have an incredible grade point average. I'm a smart woman. I've been working in the workforce for 40 years, and my generation, and if y'all don't understand, invented the internet, for Christ's sakes. And we're not stupid. All right? And yet, you're going to fail me for my pronouns. So my questions are this. As a student, if I don't want to claim this woke ideology, how do I advance and get my degree in something I love and really want to do and would be really good at without being failed unless I fall into their agenda? Tell me how to fix this.
Yeah, so first, thank you for your blunt nature. It's very refreshing. So, yes, there is no easy answer. Number one, there's strength in numbers. Confronting professors or administrators with you plus 10 or 30 other people is the first way to do it. You should not go to appeal by yourself. You should go with the Turning Point chapter and ask for a remedy with many people alongside of you. Number two, though, and I'm just going to be as blunt as possible as you were, I really don't think grades matter that much in the world. I know they matter to you for advancement. My advice to people is that your character and your integrity and standing for what is right matters a lot more than pandering to some sort of an agenda. And I know you agree with that.
Well, the problem is that you lose your funding. Okay, the minute your grades hit below C, you lose all your grants
I hear
and
you.
all your funding that's free. So all these college kids that are getting these Pell Grants get them pulled.
No, I'm not diminishing that. So they're holding your career hostage over that money. I still, that's why I think college is a scam. I still think you should not comply to their tyrannical woke orthodoxy. You should fight for it. You should fight on it. But to be perfectly honest, I think that it destroys your soul every time that you comply with their nonsense. But God bless you, and thank you for being a lifelong learner. Thank you.
So I just had a question, because you talk a lot about like protecting and securing our southern border. But as the granddaughter of immigrants, I think that we get into a lot of complicated disputes with the idea that immigrants are criminals, are drug dealers, and things like that. So I just want to hear what your opinion is on those expectations or those, those stereotypes that are put on Hispanic communities, Latino communities, and how they change the way people perceive immigration.
Sure. So thank you for the question. So you said you're the first generation student or first generation American?
I'm a first generation student.
Cool, great. Second generation American? Did I hear that right?
Third generation American on my mom's side.
Great.
Second on my dad's.
When your grandparents, then, is that right, came to this country, did they do so through the legal process that was in front of them?
So my father got married to my mother, so he's a legal resident of the United States. She's been here her entire life.
But did she enter legally?
She did. She's born here, yeah.
Got it.
My grandpa on my dad's side entered in illegally.
Okay. So I'm not here to like insult your grandpa, right? But we must be very clear that the type of immigration that we support is when you follow our rules and you come on our terms, and that you do not break into a country uninvited and you try to cut.
Can I add something to that? The reason why he left, and a lot of people in Mexico do, is because of the political state, especially in the 70s and 80s, when they decided to move. They have a government that isn't supportive of their constituents, and because of drug problems, their only choice was to move.
Yeah, I totally sympathize. That's not true. It's never the only choice to commit a crime, and we should not put up with it. And so it is an insult to other immigrants from Vietnam and Laos and Pakistan that have to wait decades in line to morally equivalate people that come in and just break in. Oh, I have an unstable country. Like half of the world's countries are unstable. So look, we just have to be very clear with this, is that if you come into the country uninvited, you have committed a crime and you are a criminal. And we could decide that we're not going to enforce our laws, or we can say that when you are a criminal, you should then be punished for that crime aka sent back to your country of origin, because you were not invited. And it is an insult, again, to the Poles and to the Czechoslovakians and from the Senegalese and people all across the world that don't have the proximity or the luxury just to waltz into America.
You call it a luxury to leave a country that has political tyranny and come into a country with opportunity?
Yes, to live in Mexico, to be able to go 100 miles north and break into America. Do you know how many people in Pakistan would kill to be on that border?
That's why we bring them in.
Well, we shouldn't, right? That's the point. And secondly, do you think that you have a right to immigrate to America?
I think that I didn't have a choice. My grandparents made that decision for me.
And I'm not trying to attack your grandparents, but no one has a right to go to anybody else's country. You are invited. It is a privilege, not a right, to come into America.
So it's a privilege to live a life that requires you to have clean water, clean food, clean air.
Yes, of course it is.
And you have to fight for that?
Yes, it is not.
But we didn't?
Hold on a sec. Well,
born here, we didn't fight for that?
Well, my ancestors did fight for that, actually, and I'm a very thankful recipient of many generations of Americans that fought for the greatest nation ever to exist.
By doing what? Coming here?
Well,
illegally?
Wait, what did my ancestors do? They
came here
They
illegally.
came over here in 1620, fought in the Revolutionary War, fought in the Civil War, fought in World War I.
So because my grandpa
fought in World
didn't
War
come here in
II.
1620, it gives him no right to have a good life?
He can fill out paperwork and wait in line like the rest of the world. And then we can see whether or not it's in our best interest to allow him to come in. And so we have to weigh costs and benefits. Do you think that the American government should first have an obligation to citizens before foreigners?
Okay, I think we have an
answer the
obligation.
question. Yeah.
Here's the thing. Yeah, we're obligated because we're citizens to have the rights that we have, but that doesn't mean we can't open up our borders
that's not
when
the
we
question.
have the process
Hold on a second.
to do so.
You, being a younger American, and everyone in the audience, is the first generation in American history to have it be worse off than your parents. So the social, and you agree with that, social contract, poorer, more expensive. Yeah. So wouldn't it be rational for the American government to say, we're going to prioritize younger generation Americans that are American passport holders and citizens before those in another nation?
I don't want to say anything that offends people. But
go
I've
ahead.
already said it, right? I've already said
Yeah.
it. Whatever. I think that the way we're going about it is wrong. And that if we don't have a clear path to citizenship, we won't open up those opportunities for people to come and seek a good life. But I also think that, we are required to have those rights ourselves.
Seeking a
as
good
American
life
citizens.
is fine. It's a nice added benefit. Our government does not exist to improve the life of foreign citizens.
But we should be open to the idea of accepting that.
Of course we are, if we have our own house in order. We are in chaos right now. We have the most depressed, suicidal, anxious generation in history. Our birth rate is collapsing. Kids can't afford homes.
Yeah.
You guys are drowning in debt. You have to compete for jobs against foreigners. Our country is a mess right now. And so when your country's a mess and your home is in disarray and bedlam, your own government should say, time out. I have a heart for the people of Haiti. I have a heart for the people of every country. But you're not coming here until this generation at least has it as good as their parents. And that is a very simple moral statement. If when you bring people in, they make the life worse for the people that were already here, should we stop letting those people in?
Do they, though?
Yes, they do. Illegals every day are doing DUIs and kids are dying across the country.
But if Americans are doing this, it's fine?
Well, it's not fine. They should go to jail. But this is the red herring. Is that Americans are invited guests, foreigners are people that broke into the country that shouldn't be here, and none of those crimes should be happening at all. One of them is a crime of choice. The other is just a crime because that's part of what happens when you have a society. So when you have Americans that are murdered by illegals, that is because we have decided and chosen we're okay with them being here, and if they kill our people, no big deal.
I'm just trying to... I know we're not going to agree on
No,
this.
it's
That's
fine.
why I
So,
came up here in the
that's
first
fine.
place. I knew
Are you okay with deporting every illegal person that's here?
No.
Why?
Because there's some people here that are not represented well by the media. There's a lot of illegal immigrants here that are working their butts off for the life that they want.
I don't care if they're working hard. But the point is, what should the punishment be for breaking into a country?
Depends on the crime you commit after you break into it.
Okay, that's it. I'm talking about just the crime is breaking in. What should the punishment be? I break into somebody's home. What should their punishment be?
Can you repeat that?
Oh, so if you behave after you get here, that's fine. So to play that out, if someone comes into your dorm room uninvited and they do the dishes and laundry, they can stay?
If I'm not going to do my own dishes, heck yeah. They're doing my dishes for me? Cool. If they don't kill me, I'm not dead. It is what it is, man.
Well, they are killing a lot of Americans, but...
You say they, like they are?
Yes,
like
they.
All illegal immigrants kill people? That's crazy.
Many illegals do, actually. No, but it's just interesting. The punishment for the crime of breaking into a nation should be what it is in Switzerland and Israel and Hungary. Every person who breaks into a nation uninvited goes back to their country of origin, period.
So why
End
is
of
there an
story.
emphasis on the southern border?
Because most people come illegally through the southern border.
The point I'm trying to make is that we categorize all illegal immigrants under the same thing: sex traffickers,
No, I'm
drug
not.
dealers.
Am I
and
doing
by
that?
you saying all illegal immigrants
No,
have
no,
to
no.
be deported,
Yes.
you're implying that all of
I'm not
them
implying
are doing
anything.
these
I'm being
terrible things,
super
and not a
clear.
small percentage of them.
If you come into a country uninvited, definitionally you are a criminal.
We're just not going to agree.
It's fine. Then
That's
final
okay.
question. What is a criminal?
What is a criminal?
No, what is it? Would you agree with the definition that a criminal is someone who breaks the law?
Here's where I'm thinking. Here's the thing. I don't know how he's going to turn it, and I don't fully agree.
It's not a matter of turning it. It's a very ABC sequence. If they're not criminals, then tell me what a criminal is. And a criminal is obviously someone who breaks the law. Someone who comes across the southern border broke federal law, therefore they are a criminal.
Okay, then we can just disagree.
I want to talk about like gun control.
Gun control.
Yeah.
Sure, okay.
So I know, like, you know, we have a Second Amendment. We're like protected to owning like firearms.
Yes.
As a gay person, I often fear of like retaliation, hate crimes. I've actually been mugged a few times wearing stuff that may not seem as normal as this.
Okay.
What can like we do from like a Second Amendment perspective to like help bring people into like the folds of like gun ownership in order for like self-protection?
Yeah, I think that's a thoughtful question. I mean, look, I think, if you've been mugged and everything, like, I'm sorry that happened to you. The gun's a great equalizer, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that people like you need to speak up and be like, look, if you think you're going to be terrorized or you're going to be hunted, like, a gun is a moral right to be able to defend yourself and your liberty, right? And your family or your people you love. I mean, I suppose it'd be a better question for you, right? Like, what do you think that a majority of gay people are pro guns or anti? I'm just curious. Like,
Mostly anti-gun.
why do you think
know.
that is? I'm just curious.
I think it's a lot of like liberal identity politics. How can we like bridge that like disconnect?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that, look, I don't think gun ownership should be political. I don't. And like, this is one of the arguments I always make for like BLM people, right? It's like, if you think you're getting hunted down, then like responsibly own guns, right? But there is a fear around gun ownership in America. I think it should transcend, sexual persuasion or skin color, right? I think it's a moral right for all people, especially if you think, especially women who are, potentially at a physical disadvantage from defending themselves, right? You got mugged a couple times. I don't know if the person who mugged you is a man or a woman. I don't know. But, if you were in a situation where you're physically disadvantaged, like a firearm could equalize that, right?
Yeah, it's a pretty like out there take.
Is it taboo, like tactic almost?
Yeah,
or?
like I'm very like, no, go for it, like get into a girl. But then it's also just kind of like not really, I don't want to say like frowned upon, but just kind of like, whoa, that's a bit much from like someone like me. But I just thought I'd ask.
Well, I want to encourage you, like, don't let that get to you.
I'm much more like pro gun ownership and like Second Amendment type.
Yeah, okay. And that's because of necessity, like basically what happened to you, or just...
Yeah, but also just more of like, community defense, I would say.
Sure.
I don't think people should be like shooting each other on the streets or like dueling. Obviously.
I don't support that, obviously.
I know,
right, yeah.
But like, it's definitely something that I think that like a lot more like LGBT people should really take into account, just to protect ourselves and like you said, people.
Yeah, look, I totally agree. Like, I mean, if you believe you're being targeted or you're in a marginalized position, like, that's what the Second Amendment is partially there for, right? One of the reasons. So.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you because you're like a very big like political person.
Yeah, I would just kind of take it from a moral argument too, right? Which is like, if you believe, like, who are you going to trust to defend yourself? That's what I would take, right? So it's like, do you trust the police, which obviously is not a big thing around here, right?
Yeah.
Do you trust, like, I don't know, someone that you think will hurt you, then the moral argument of the Second Amendment is that you should be responsible for your own autonomy and your own safety, right? There's other reasons too, but.
Great. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thoughtful question.
In the case of immigration, if you hard restrict it, and make it harder to get in, the only people who are going to make the attempts to get in, or generally going to make the attempts to get in, are more likely to commit crimes.
Well, that's just not. There's no data or evidence to suggest that at all. When we've had the strictest immigration policies, crime was at its lowest in this country.
Well,
So in the 1950s,
that's correlation.
Well, no, it's actually direct causation. Right now, we have wide open borders, correct? DNA background testing from over 120 different countries.
Sure, but I don't think that has to do with the process of getting into the country. It has to do with the process of getting in the country, because if it's extremely difficult to get in through legally, people are going to resort to coming through illegally.
Well,
is that not true?
Well, but we should just prevent both. I mean, that's the point.
You should prevent people getting in any way.
Yeah, well, we should have a total immigration moratorium in this country
But
completely.
we have like the lowest unemployment we've had in a long time. Wouldn't we want more workers?
No, we want wages to go up for American workers.
Yeah.
It's the opposite.
Well,
so you want to restrict the labor pool so that you guys get the jobs first, not some competitor from Korea or Japan that comes in and steals your tech job. Shouldn't we invest in American workers first before foreigners?
We should.
But why do you think wages are not keeping up with inflation? Because we're bringing in millions of people into this country every single year that you guys have to compete against, and they don't have student loan debt.
If we're bringing
so they're
in
able to undercut wages every single year. Yeah, continue.
If we're bringing in so many people, I don't think we would have as low unemployment as we would right now. Would we?
There's two types of unemployment. There's structural unemployment, and then there's specialized unemployment. Specialized unemployment is very, very high, which is about 8 to 9%, which is more computer science, data engineering. But we have millions of people that have entered the disabled roles too. So, but to your point, we do have millions of people coming into the. I mean, it's not even a question.
But how many of those people you think that are coming in or would come in if we made it faster and more easy are going to be taking these high specialized tech jobs?
Well, very few, but the point is that they undercut the muscular class, which is the very people that pay the biggest burden for all these policies.
You said that the high unemployment is in specialized, not in general unemployment.
Correct.
So if general unemployment is so low, then why are we worried about people coming in taking the jobs of the labor?
Well, that's not the only reason why we're worried. We're worried because many of them are coming in illegally, and they're criminals, every single one of them. So they break our laws.
I think you're proving my point here, though.
But no, you're just making one sliver of economics, though. Numbers aside, how many of you guys have seen things get so expensive in the last year and a half? Okay, so that's just.
I agree, but I think we have different reasons, because I see that major companies.
Why are prices going up?
I see major companies are owning different things like cereal brands. There's like 2 companies that own all cereal brands, and when they can increase the prices continually and say, hey, look, guys, it's inflation, when they're making record profits that they've never made.
If that's the case, then why are small businesses raising their prices?
Small businesses are raising their prices because the products that they're getting in from these major 2-3 companies are.
Okay, so how does inflation work?
Inflation works by having more money in the system, and generally, because of that, your dollar is worth less, and then your wages don't really increase. And because your wages don't increase, everything's costing more to you.
So true or false, we have injected around $10 trillion of new money in the last 3 years.
Absolutely.
Okay, and so that is the number one reason why we're seeing prices increase.
Absolutely, but I think it's slow. The inflation itself has slowed down a lot, and the prices themselves.
It depends on what good or service you're talking about.
I agree, and I think the reason it's what good or service is because the goods or services that are in control of borderline monopolies are able to raise their prices more and more. That's why when you go to the grocery store, the big issue is a bunch of things are going up that are controlled by major companies that are supplying all these grocery stores, right?
Yeah, but a lot of them have competitors, and so I mean, I can list 5 or 6 examples where there's robust competition and prices are still going up. But we have too many dollars chasing too few goods and services. That's the big problem.
Our worker base isn't really churning as it should because we have such low unemployment, which is why I'm saying immigration should be easier to come in, because when your workers aren't moving through positions and stuff, wages aren't going to increase that often because you're more likely to get a wage increase by switching to another job that pays you more.
Yeah, so wouldn't it make, if you want to get wages up, shouldn't you want to restrict the amount of workers in the workforce? I mean, so if you have 200 people you could hire to fix a window, or 30 people to hire to fix a window, which pool is going to have the higher average wage?
I think the smaller pool would.
Okay, we agree.
The issue is a lot of people right now aren't wanting to go switch to other jobs all the time. And when you get more people in more jobs, you're likely to have more churn through there.
Okay, yeah, I don't think we disagree on that.
Okay, cool. So that's why I'm saying,
Yeah,
like,
but you don't have me convinced on the immigration issue, though.
Okay,
because
but-
if you restrict immigration across the board, then you have a prioritization and a lesser pool of competition for foreign-born American labor.
Sure, but I think, am I wrong in saying your issue is that you have issues with specialized labor coming in and taking the positions of higher, paying
Both.
more specialized?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it's specialized muscular class labor, which is conflated.
Yeah.
So there's advanced manufacturing too, which does not require a college degree, but can take 6 to 9 months of apprenticeship. Or for example, being an auto mechanic. That's not exactly being a coder, but that's tough work, right?
Sure.
Or even more simply,
I just don't think that that's the majority of labor that is going to come in if we allow more people through. And it's not like a blanket, oh, we're letting everybody through. But right now I see my biggest issue with the right is that, like, why are we restricting more immigration other than like illegal immigration, but why are we not proposing ways to loosen immigration to fix that the jobs that aren't like that? Because there's like most jobs aren't generally in those classes.
No, you're coming after this in good faith. My response would be, we need a national training program to get Americans properly trained before we try to import foreign labor to fill those positions. And that goes back to my college is a scam type postulation. So we have oversupplied the credentialing, which is 4-year college degree, and we've undersupplied the 6 to 9 month specialization vector. And because of that, we have massive job openings. I want to get to the next question. Thank you. Appreciate it.
There's a reason that a lot of the black community doesn't have a father, and it's because of systemic racism. It's because like black men are more likely to be in prison.
Oh yeah, so why do people go to prison?
Like a lot of the time it's because they're in poverty and they have no other way.
In poverty, we should give excuses for committing crime?
Yes, like if someone is stealing something because they have no money and there's no jobs.
That's so interesting. So you think most crimes are crimes of necessity in the black community?
I'm not saying most.
Something happened to black America since 1965.
You mean the war on drugs?
If that's your contention, that's fine. So in order to go to jail for the war on drugs, you have to be dealing drugs, right? Or you have to be caught with drugs. So if you don't
which is one of like the main jobs that you can have in a like poverty-stricken. Like if there's no jobs, like you're going to do drugs. I mean, you're going to trade drugs because that's the only option you have.
It's such a difference in worldview. I don't like making excuses for people that do things that are obviously destructive. Secondly, we have a problem in black America. The biggest problem is not racism. It's the lack of dads. If dads are around, kids flourish.
Systemic racism creates family problems. If you take away black people from their families, then they're going to have broken families.
Okay, but that's interesting. How are you taking them away? Aren't they leaving? If you stay single as a single mother, you get money from the federal government, and it's basically subsidized, if you will.
Sure.
Can we at least agree that if the nuclear family in black America was stronger and tighter knit, that would be a good thing?
In a lot of cases, yeah.
Let's talk about the border. We have brought in 5% of the population of Haiti.
I don't see the issue with that, though. Like,
You don't see the issue with
allowing immigrants into our country. I mean, is that not the foundation of our country?
These are illegal immigrants that
people
cut in
seeking
line.
refuge for the best country in the world. Isn't that the whole point of your like organization?
Well,
the U.S. is the best country in the world. Shouldn't we be obligated to like help people that are suffering?
Yes, America is the best country. Therefore, its citizens should come first, not foreigners.
So
we have an obligation to our own people.
So the pathway to citizenship should become easier.
No, we should deport them all back to their homeland.
We should deport them all back to their homeland.
All
the immigrants. Okay.
Well,
we shouldn't
all
make
the
it easier
illegal foreigners, yes.
Okay.
In Springfield, Ohio, in one town, English as a second language speakers in one high school went from 250 to 1,500 kids in 2 years. These communities are being overrun. Go down to Aurora, Colorado, right down the street here. Entire apartment complexes are now being run by Venezuelan gangs. Not to mention every day an American citizen is being killed. From Lake and Riley to Rachel Morin to 11-year-olds that are being killed in DUI accidents. We have a belief that our founding fathers had, which is if your government does not fulfill its obligation to its own people first, its government is not legitimate. And that's what's happening right now. Our government is now providing taxpayer-funded cell phones, hotel rooms, benefits, airplane rides, cash for foreigners, but not for Americans. If you guys as an American citizen want a free cell phone, they'll laugh at you. As a foreigner from Venezuelan, you get one on the southern border. You get a flight to any city that you want. You get a luxury hotel in New York City. You get taxpayer-funded health care. That is the inversion. That is elevating somebody from a distant land over our own people. When our own kids can't afford homes, when our own people are seeing an increase in crime, homelessness, and we have over 50,000 homeless vets in this country. It's a breakdown of the social contract.
Wait, so the government should support veterans, support
Yes.
citizens more? We should do, so we should spend more on our people with like better health care, better social
hold on a
programs.
second.
That's literally what you just said.
We should spend it on veterans and not on foreigners.
Sure, and American
Yes.
citizens with like cheaper health care. That's what you just said.
Well, hold on. You're
Free
trying to,
phones, airplane rides, public transit.
I
That
don't
sounds
support-
great for Americans.
No, it sounds terrible, actually.
For Americans?
Yes, government should not be giving free phones to anybody, okay?
You said that the citizens should come first in those programs.
Yes,
first.
you know how they should come first? By not
On
having to
nothing.
compete against a foreigner for your job.
But I don't think that's the case though. When most like,
How about this? If your own perspective was correct, would you feel comfortable going in an Uber right now to Aurora, Colorado, and going to those 3 apartment complexes?
I mean, according to the Aurora police, I probably would. They say the apartments complexes are not overrun.
You should get in the car and go, go talk to anybody here and go knock on the door, and they'll extort you for cash, because we're a country that is open for looting right now. For the entire world, over 118 countries have entered the southern border. That we know of, at least 99 people on the terrorist watch list have come across the southern border. We're talking about people from Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, from Iran, people from Pakistan that are coming here and mean harm to the interior of the United States. Not to mention, we're breaking down what it means to be a citizen. A citizen should be put first above anybody else. If a government does not do that, then the government is not fulfilling its basic obligation. And the number one obligation is to make sure that its people can have a pathway to a better life and a good life. Not a variety of free stuff, but not have to compete with somebody from Brazil for a home. Not have to, no, but not sure. The way that we're not doing that is that we're importing the third world, and we're quickly becoming the third world.
So why don't we use our resources to improve the third world so they're not coming here rather than
Because
just spending
that's
the
not
same
the
amount of
role
money?
of the American government. You think we should be concerned about Central American politics? I don't care. I care about our own people.
So then you
Secure
don't
the border
care about
and-
those people that are sex
Hold on.
trafficking
You know why?
children.
Hold on. Of course I care about it.
You say you don't want to spend the money to make that change happen.
Number one, we've spent trillions, hundreds of billions of dollars. It doesn't do any good. Number
That's
two,
not true.
Number two, it is not the role of the American government to solve the problems of Panama, El Salvador, and Honduras when our own citizens are suffering and are crying out for help.
So why has the billions of dollars spent on Central American aid over the last 4 years
We shouldn't
been
have
effective
spent-
at slowing
It
the
hasn't-
rates of sex trafficking in Central America?
It hasn't slowed anything.
No, it's been affected.
It hasn't affected anything.
It
What you're
literally
talking about
has.
is bribing these governments, where they then go give it to cartel leaders and say, hey, this month send 20,000 people instead of 40,000
That's
people.
not what that money's going towards. It's going towards NGOs and
No,
bottom-up stabilization.
You think NGOs
No.
spend the money correctly?
Okay, not
Man,
all
you are
NGOs,
so
obviously,
naive.
sure.
By the way, more people are crossing the Darien Gap than ever before. Not to mention, they're coming across on the CBP One app across the border into the interior of the United States in every single state. You cannot continue to have a country if you import an unfamiliar third world this quickly into America.
So
Now,
there
you'll
should
say-
be a path to
no,
immigration.
No, we should have no
and-
immigrants in this country right now.
No immigrants in the
None.
country.
We need a total, complete shutdown of immigration in this country until every single Gen Z person can afford a home and can get their act together and be able to afford the
So
American dream.
what's your path to Gen Z getting homes? Is it just kicking all brown people out?
Not brown people. I think
Okay,
we should.
immigrants, yeah.
We should. Anyone that's here illegally should be deported back to their country of homeland. By the way, it's a moral
So
position.
H-1B visas that like generate and
We should-
stimulate
we should-
the
we should-
economy, kick those out.
Well, that's interesting. H-1B. Who here studying computer? Anything? Anybody? Computer engineering? You guys have to compete against a foreigner for a job. That's wrong. American. Well, I actually care about the country more than the free market.
So colleges should better prepare students and better utilize government resources.
Well, college is a scam, but yes, we did that earlier.
For
But-
computer science, they shouldn't go to college.
Well, actually, you don't need to go to college for computer science.
You don't need to go to college for computer science?
You could do a coding class in a couple months.
You could do
and
a
get
coding
job.
class.
Yes.
Yeah.
Alphabet is hiring right now.
You could get a job at Alphabet, Google,
Yes.
taking a C++ class?
Correct. Yes.
Yes.
They're hiring coders after a 60-day coding class. To answer your question, a country that ceases to secure its own sovereignty and does not think I care more about my own people than the foreigners ceases to be a country. You're a colony and you're something else. And we are seeing our generosity be taken advantage of. I am all for American charities going down to Panama and helping out. I'm all for people giving to charity.
So we should reallocate U.S. spending towards things that are actually effective for people in and outside of our borders.
Well,
So then we don't have people coming into our borders, and then we can help our people.
Well, no, the way, again, if they come to the border and the border is closed and you say, hasta la vista, go back to Nicaragua.
Or we spend in Central America, they don't have to come to the U.S., and then we have a better U.S. It's the same amount of spending.
No, first of all, to solve the problems of the third world would cost trillions of dollars, and that would all be laundered and not even work. And again, it's not the position of the American government to go throw money around in the Southern Triangle. Instead, it's our country's closed. We're not open for looting anymore. Go make Nicaragua great again, or go do what El Salvador has done. El Salvador is now a safe and stable country, and they're seeing their GDP go up, and it's not because of us.
Yeah, it is. We put $4 billion into South Central America.
Hold on, and Bukele barely took the money. You know why it's safe? Bukele has turned El Salvador safe because he locked up all the criminals. He locked up 40,000 criminals and put them in prisons, and El Salvador is now safer than America. El Salvador was the murder capital of the world, and now El Salvador is much safer than America. I think it's wrong if you guys are afraid to walk the streets of Denver at night. I wouldn't walk the streets of Denver at night, would you guys? No! That's a breakdown of the fundamental role of government. Would you guys walk the streets of LA at night? No. The streets of San Francisco? No. We can't walk our own greatest cities at night, and we want to bring in more people from the third world? Hell no.
Hi. My name's Erin. I'm a really big fan, and I'm really excited to see both of you. I'm a little stressed because I feel like I could ask about, gun violence. I could ask about anti-Semitism on campus. But I feel like with an opportunity like this, I would really appreciate some personal advice. I'm here at the University of Pittsburgh as a social work major, and I'm really passionate about it. I really just want to get your advice moving forward for myself. There's some obvious things I think you can think that would conflict for me as an aspiring social worker.
What would conflict?
I don't know how to say it properly.
I think I can help. The social work industry is very much about a perspective generally of that people in poverty are there permanently and not trying to break people out of poverty into the middle class or higher levels.
Right.
They view poverty not as a series of choices, but as a station in life that is immovable largely. Right. Is that fair to say?
That is fair to say. That's why my personal focus is on the children in underprivileged communities, because I personally feel like they don't choose to be put in that position. But I'm having a little bit of a difficult time empathizing with the older generation of underprivileged, and not in every community, but I don't know how to not sound bad. I know you are great at not sounding bad when you say stuff, but I don't want to say something that'll get me in trouble.
Well, here's one way to look at it. And Charlie, that was helpful, actually. The Great Society from Lyndon Johnson. It was a series of policies that were designed to help underprivileged communities.
Right.
They hurt the very people they were supposed to help.
How?
Well, the reality is it created dependence on government. So you have a lot of single mothers, for example, that are paid more money not to have a man in the house than to have a man in the house because of the way the math of these aid programs
What do you
work.
mean?
Well, often the way the math of the aid is calculated is if you have an earning husband in the household, that actually causes you to disqualify for forms of federal aid that were designed to help you.
Right.
But actually, the best way to get kids in your own household ahead is in a two-parent household, because if you're raised in a two-parent household, you're less likely to end up in jail, less likely to end up in poverty, more likely to graduate from high school. So one of the ways that, if you're asking for advice, I would say for the people around you, even who might lean left, you can recognize their intentions come from a good place.
Absolutely.
But the policies of their leaders have actually betrayed the very people they were supposed to help. And you can let them know, because I believe this is genuinely true. Not just the Republican Party, but our conservative movement. We care about lifting people up from poverty. We just care about actually doing it rather than talking about it. That's what I would say.
The other thing I'll say is that we as conservatives believe that if you're in poverty, it's largely because of values, not because of lack of stuff.
Like what values?
Not saving money. Spending all of your money in your paycheck as you get it, for example. Abandoning your spouse after impregnating them. Not spending all of your money on alcohol and drugs and instead opening a 401k. So values are the number one predictor of entering the middle class. And there's a great book called Life at the Bottom. You should read it, by Theodore Dalrymple, who's a social worker in the United Kingdom. It's called Life at the Bottom, where he got into social work because he wanted to help people, and he realized it was not a lack of stuff. It wasn't lack of housing, lack of food stamps. It was that their value system was one that kept them poor. So yeah, really quick, then I want to get to the next
I'm
question.
just struggling because in all of my social work classes right now, they're talking about all of those things. And
They're wrong.
so what do? I'm trying to learn about what I want to do.
I think you need to stay in social work because you're called to do it, but there's an amazing amount of literature from Thomas Sowell to Shelby Steele to Theodore Dalrymple that get down to actual root causes of poverty, which is not lack of stuff, but is worldview. And I think that'd be super helpful.
There is obviously a huge issue in the country with healthcare prices. Yeah. What do you think is the best way to lower costs for families?
The hospitals are gouging prices significantly. We have to try to get at the root cause, which is the food that we are feeding ourselves and our kids. We have to get to the fact that we are an increasingly sedentary country. We aren't walking enough. We're not exercising enough. And healthcare costs are exploding because we don't actually address the root cause 20 or 30 years prior.
How do we take on those huge food companies?
Well, the first thing is we should have a real conversation about banning pesticides in when we're making our food. Ultra processed food should not be on the FDA recommended food pyramid. We have a chronic disease epidemic. It's not because our kids are lazier. It's because we are actively poisoning our kids with food from big ag that we're spraying with all these pesticides, these chemicals. And if you look at the ingredient list of just a Lunchables box, we are basically giving kids the worst thing possible for their metabolism, for their endocrinology. So that I'm more interested in the healthcare conversation that tries to make sure that a 12-year-old doesn't have to get on Ozempic by the time they're 18 years old. And just so you know, they're giving pediatric Ozempic now for 12 and 13-year-olds. They are now treating obesity as a genetic disorder that you cannot do anything about, and they just want a 12-year-old to now have to take a shot every week to try to curb their obesity, which has all other sorts of very, very negative health implications. So every day, potentially, right? And so how do we solve that? Well, my personal crusade, we have to blow up the food pyramid, that we have way too many carbohydrates in our diet, not enough healthy fats, and not enough protein. Whoever made that was obviously bought by the big ag companies, and you should just say, I'm not going to have any more high fructose corn syrup, I'm not going to have any more processed sugars, and if there are ingredients I can't pronounce, I should resist it, and you'll be a lot healthier because of it. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.